June 17, 2026. The sand outside the burning city of Basra trembles under the weight of armored steel. Inside the cramped hull of an American M1A2 Abrams tank, Sergeant Daniel Reyes wipes sweat from his palms onto his gloves. The metal walls around him hum with the deep mechanical growl of the turbine engine. Every vibration travels through his bones. War, he has learned, is loud even before the shooting begins. Reyes adjusts the intercom headset pressed against his ears. "Driver, hold steady," he murmurs. Private Cole Turner sits below him in the driver's seat, barely 20 years old, hands gripping the controls like a lifeline. His knuckles are pale. Outside, the horizon burns orange through the thin desert dust. All fires from distant refineries stain the sky with black columns of smoke. The war with Iran began only 48 hours ago, but already, the Middle East feels like it is cracking apart. Through the gunner's thermal sight, Corporal Mason Briggs scans the distant highway. The digital display flickers with ghost-like shapes, wrecked trucks, abandoned cars, shattered concrete barricades. Movement. 11 o'clock, Briggs says quietly. Reyes leans closer to the monitor. Heat signatures flicker between the ruins. "Civilians?" Turner asks. "No," Briggs replies. "Too organized." A convoy appears, through the rising dust armored vehicles moving slowly along the broken highway, leading toward the Iraqi border. Iranian armor. Reyes exhales slowly. Distance. 2,000 meters. Maybe more. The radio suddenly erupts with static. Then a voice. "Atlas 1, this is command. Iranian armored elements confirmed crossing near the Shat al-Arab. Rules of engagement authorized." Inside the tank, silence spreads like ice. They all understand what those words mean. The war has officially begun. Reyes lowers himself into the commander's seat and studies the approaching shapes through binocular periscope optics. Russian-built T-90 tanks, at least 6. Behind them troop carriers. Infantry. He hears Turner swallow. "Sergeant, that's a lot of armor." Reyes nods slowly. "Yes, it is." The Abrams main cannon rotates with a deep mechanical whine as Briggs aligns the gun. Outside, the desert wind carries the distant rumble of engines and the smell of burning oil. For a moment, the battlefield holds its breath. Then the Iranian convoy suddenly stops. Briggs stiffens. "Sergeant, they're deploying." Through the sight, Reyes watches soldiers jump from armored vehicles and disappear behind shattered highway barriers. Missile teams, anti-tank weapons. Turner whispers, barely audible. "Oh God." Reyes grips the intercom. "Driver, reverse 5 meters. Gunner load sabot." Metal clangs as the shell locks into the chamber. The Abrams turret turns slowly toward the rising enemy armor. Across the desert, the first flash of an Iranian missile ignites the dawn, and suddenly the war explodes. The missile streaks across the desert like a bolt of white lightning. Inside the Abrams, the warning alarm screams. "Missile, left side." Briggs shouts. Sergeant Daniel Reyes doesn't think. Training takes over. "Driver move." Private Turner slams the throttle forward. The M1A2 Abrams lurches violently as 40 tons of steel surge across the sand. The turbine engine howls, kicking up a storm of dust behind them. The missile strikes the ground where they were seconds before. The explosion slams against the hull like a giant hammer. Inside the tank, every bolt rattles. "Close," Turner gasps. "Too close," Reyes replies. Through the gunner's sight, Corporal Briggs locks onto the nearest Iranian tank. A T-90 sits partially behind a concrete barrier, along the ruined highway near Basra. Its turret begins rotating toward them. "Target acquired," Briggs says. Reyes feels the moment stretch thin. 2 tanks, 2 crews, 4 seconds between life and death. Fire. The Abrams 120 millimeters cannon erupts with a thunderclap that shakes the entire machine. The sabot round tears through the desert air faster than sound. Across the battlefield, the T-90 explodes in a violent bloom of smoke and shattered armor. The turret lifts slightly as fire bursts from the hull. "Hit," Briggs shouts, but the celebration lasts less than a heartbeat. Another warning alarm erupts. Multiple launch signatures. Briggs yells. Reyes peers through the optics. Infantry teams are firing. From behind wrecked trucks and roadside barricades along the Shat al-Arab highway approach. Missiles streak toward them like burning spears. "Driver, smoke," Reyes orders. Turner slams the control. The Abrams launches a thick cloud of defensive smoke grenades. White fog floods the battlefield, swallowing the tank in seconds. But through the haze, Reyes hears the terrifying whistle of incoming rockets. One detonates against the Abrams side armor. The blast throws Turner against his seat. "Armor holding," Briggs shouts after checking the diagnostics. Another explosion hits nearby, showering the tank with sand and fragments. Reyes knows the truth. They cannot stay exposed. Forward, he commands. We break their line. Turner hesitates. Sergeant, straight at them. Yes. The Abrams roars out of the smoke cloud like a charging beast. The tank crushes through abandoned cars and broken highway barriers, closing the distance rapidly. Briggs reloads another Sebo round. 500 meters. 300. Now the enemy armor fills the gunner's sight. Another T-90 emerges through the dust, its cannon aimed directly at them. Briggs whispers quietly, Sergeant, they're ready. Reyes stares through the periscope. 2 guns aligned, 2 shells waiting to fire, and suddenly both tanks pull their triggers. 2 cannons fire at the same instant. Inside the M1A2 Abrams, the world erupts in thunder. The recoil slams through the turret as Corporal Mason Briggs' Sebo round leaves the barrel, slicing through the smoky air at nearly a mile per second. Across the shattered highway near Basra, the Iranian T-90 fires back. For a fraction of a second, both shells cross paths in the desert sky. Then the battlefield explodes. The Abrams round strikes first. The Sebo penetrator punches through the T-90's turret ring with violent force. A burst of flame erupts from the commander's hatch's ammunition, cooks off inside the tank. The Iranian vehicle jerks sideways, crippled, but their return shot still lands. The impact slams into the Abrams' frontal armor like a sledgehammer swung by a giant. Inside the tank, the crew is thrown violently against their restraints. The lights flicker. Warning alarms howl. Private Cole Turner coughs through the dust shaking loose from the turret walls. Sergeant, we hit. Reyes forces his eyes open. Armor held. Briggs reports breathlessly, scanning the diagnostics. No penetration. Reyes exhales slowly. The Abrams is built for this. But the battlefield outside is getting worse. Through the commander's optics, Reyes sees more armored shapes, emerging through the smoke along the road leading toward the Shed al-Arab. More Iranian vehicles, infantry carriers, rocket teams. This wasn't a patrol. It was an invasion column. Gunner, reload Sebo, Reyes orders. Metal clangs as Briggs slams another round into the breach. But suddenly the radio bursts alive again. Atlas 1, this is Atlas 2. We are taking heavy fire east of your position. Iranian armor moving through the refinery district. Reyes stiffens. The burning oil fields outside Basra are now a battlefield. Atlas 2, say again. Reyes says into the mic. Static crackles. Then a strained voice replies. Multiple tanks. We're outnumbered. A distant explosion echoes across the desert. Through the periscope, Reyes sees a column of smoke rising far beyond the highway. Another Abrams burning. Inside the tank, nobody speaks. Turner whispers quietly, that's Henderson's crew. Reyes knows the men inside that tank. They shared coffee only hours ago. Now their vehicle is a black silhouette burning against the morning sky. Briggs swallows. Sergeant, we can't hold all of them. Reyes studies the battlefield again. 3 remaining T-90 tanks advancing. Missile teams spreading across the ruined highway. And somewhere beyond the smoke, friendly armor fighting for survival. He grips the radio again. Atlas 1 moving to support. Engaging enemy armor. Turner glances upward. You sure about this, Sergeant? Reyes watches the advancing Iranian tanks through the optics. Their cannons turning. Their engines roaring. Then he answers quietly. We stop them here, or Basra burns. Briggs finishes loading the shell. Sebo up. Reyes nods. Outside, the enemy armor begins advancing through the smoke. The desert shakes beneath the advancing armor. Sergeant Daniel Reyes watches through the commander's periscope as 3 Iranian T-90 vehicles crawl forward through smoke and dust like predators closing in. Inside the M1A2 Abrams, the air is hot and thick with sweat and machine oil. Range, Reyes asks. Corporal Mason Briggs peers into the thermal sight. 800 meters. Closing fast. Private Cole Turner's voice cracks slightly from the driver's seat. Sergeant, that's 3 tanks. Reyes answers without emotion. Then we shoot 3 tanks. Outside, the ruined highway outside Basra is now covered in burning wreckage. Destroyed vehicles scatter the sand like broken bones. Through the optics, Reyes sees Iranian infantry spreading across the roadside. Missile teams, rocket launchers. The battlefield is becoming a trap. Gunner, Reyes says quietly, lead tank, center mass. Briggs steadies the crosshairs over the approaching T-90. The Iranian tank's turret rotates toward them. 2 cannons slowly aligning again. The seconds stretch thin. Fire. The Abrams cannon roars. The Sebo round punches through. The front armor of the lead T-90 flames erupt instantly from the engine compartment as the vehicle stops dead in the sand. Target destroyed. Briggs shouts, but the remaining 2 tanks do not hesitate. Their cannons flash almost together. The first shell smashes into the ground beside the Abrams, throwing a geyser of sand and shrapnel across the hull. The second shell strikes a wrecked truck behind them, flipping it into the air. Turner jerks the controls. "Sergeant, they're bracketing us." Reyes nods sharply. "Driver zigzag. Don't give them a straight shot." The Abrams lurches violently across the broken highway, crushing debris beneath its tracks. Inside the turret, Briggs reloads another sub-O round with practiced speed. But suddenly the radio bursts alive again. "Atlas 1, this is Atlas 2. Iranian armor breaking through refinery sector. We're falling back." In the distance, beyond the burning oil fields near the Shad al-Arab, massive columns of smoke rise into the sky. The city is already burning. Turner whispers, almost to himself, "If they reach the refinery." Reyes finished the thought coldly. Basra loses power, fuel, everything. Another Iranian tank appears through the smoke, now for enemy vehicles. Briggs stares at the thermal display. "Sergeant, we've got more incoming." The Abrams suddenly shudders as something slams against the side armor. A missile. The hull alarms flash red. "External damage." Briggs shouts. For the first time, Reyes feels the cold edge of doubt. Too many enemies. Too little time. He grips the radio again. "Atlas 2, hold your position." Static crackles. Then he adds quietly, "Atlas 1 is coming to you." Turner glances upward. "Sergeant, that means driving straight into them." Reyes keeps his eyes on the approaching armor. "Yes." Outside, 4 Iranian tanks advance through smoke and fire. The desert wind carries the smell of burning fuel and scorched metal. Inside the M1A2 Abrams, Sergeant Daniel Reyes stares through the commander's optics, focused on the enemy tanks advancing ahead near Basra. 4 Iranian T-90 vehicles remain in front of them, but the real danger is behind. A shadow moves through the dust. The hidden T-90 slowly rises from behind a collapsed highway overpass. Its turret rotates quietly, lining up the Abrams' exposed rear armor. Inside the Iranian tank, Captain Farhad Rahimi watches the American vehicle through his gunner's scope. "Range?" he asks. 600 meters, his gunner replies. Rahimi nods slowly. The American tank is distracted. "Focus forward." "Perfect. Fire when ready." Back inside the Abrams, Corporal Mason Briggs suddenly freezes at the thermal display. "Sergeant, hold on." Reyes looks down. "What?" Briggs zooms the rear sensor camera. A glowing shape appears through the dust. A tank, directly behind them. "Oh hell," Briggs mutters. Reyes feels the cold realization hit instantly. Driver reverse now. But it's already too late. The Iranian cannon flashes. The shell screams across the desert. The impact slams into the Abrams' rear armor with terrifying force. Inside the turret, the entire tank jolts violently. Warning lights explode across the control panels. Turner nearly loses control of the steering. "Hit, we're hit." Smoke fills part of the interior as insulation burns near the engine compartment. Briggs checks the damage display frantically. Engine compartment hit, but armor held. Reyes exhales sharply. The Abrams' rear armor absorbed the blow but barely. Outside, the hidden T-90 reloads. And now the other enemy tanks ahead begin advancing faster. They've realized the Abrams is surrounded. Turner's voice shakes. "Sergeant, we're boxed in." Reyes scans the battlefield. 4 tanks ahead, 1 behind. Missile teams scattered across the road near the Shad al-Arab. And somewhere east, friendly units already collapsing. This is no longer a skirmish. It's a kill zone. Briggs slams another Sabo round into the chamber. Sabo loaded. Reyes makes a decision. Driver hard left. Full speed. Turner hesitates. "That takes us straight between 2 tanks." "I know." Outside, the Abrams roars forward, charging directly into the narrow gap between enemy armor. The nearest T-90 swings its turret toward them, but the Abrams is already moving too fast. "Gunner," Reyes says calmly, "take the one on the right." Briggs steadies the crosshairs. Distance closing fast. 200 meters. 100. The Iranian gun flashes first. The shell streaks toward them. Inside the Abrams, everyone braces, and Reyes realizes something terrifying. At this distance, neither tank can miss. 100 meters, tank warfare stops being strategy. It becomes survival. The Iranian T-90 fires first. Inside the M1A2 Abrams, Sergeant Daniel Reyes feels the split-second stretch like a wire about to snap. Brace. The enemy shell slams into the Abrams' front armor with a deafening crack. The turret shudders violently. Sparks burst from control panels as warning lights flash red across the interior. Private Cole Turner nearly slams his head against the steel frame. Armor held. Corporal Mason Briggs shouts, staring at the diagnostic screen. But the Iranian tank is already reloading. And now they're less than 80 meters apart. Reyes barks the order. Fire. The Abrams cannon erupts like thunder trapped inside steel. The Sebo round strikes the T-90's lower hull. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the tank erupts in fire. The explosion lifts part of the turret as flames blast through the commander's hatch. The vehicle collapses sideways against the broken highway barrier near Basra. Target destroyed. Briggs breathes, but the victory lasts less than a second. Another cannon fires. The second T-90 on their left unleashes its shot. The shell streaks past the Abrams turret and detonates behind them, sending burning debris across the road. Turner jerks the steering. "We're still alive. Keep moving," Reyes orders. The Abrams crashed through the narrow gap between the burning wreck of the destroyed T-90 and a line of shattered trucks. Metal groans beneath the tank's tracks. Behind them, the hidden Iranian tank that struck their engine earlier is advancing again. Now the battlefield is chaos. 3 enemy tanks still operational. Missile teams repositioning across the sand near the Shad al-Arab. And far ahead, the smoke columns of the refinery district grow larger. The radio crackles again. Atlas 1, this is Atlas 2 enemy armor entering refinery perimeter. Reyes clenches his jaw. If those tanks reach the oil processing facilities, the entire region could ignite. Millions of barrels of fuel, pipelines, storage towers. One explosion could turn Basra into an inferno. "Gunner, next target," Reyes says. Briggs scans through the thermal sight. To T-90s moving through the smoke, another circling behind them. He whispers quietly, "They're coordinating." Reyes realizes the same thing. The Iranian commander is trying to trap them again, but something else suddenly appears through the dust. A shape moving along the refinery road. Briggs squints at the display. "Sergeant, that's not enemy armor." Reyes leans closer. Through the haze, another tank emerges. Low silhouette, angular turret. The shape is unmistakable. Another Abrams. Reyes grabs the radio. "Atlas 2, is that you?" Static crackles. Then a voice answers, but it isn't American. The voice on the radio speaks in accented English. "Calm, controlled. American tank, you are surrounded." Inside the M1A2 Abrams, the crew goes silent. Sergeant Daniel Reyes grips the radio microphone slowly. Outside, through the dust near Basra, the approaching tank becomes clearer. It is not another Abrams. The silhouette is wrong. Lower turret, sharper armor plates, Iranian armor. Corporal Mason Briggs whispers as the thermal sight resolves the shape. A modified T-90, moving directly toward them through the refinery road. But something is different. It isn't firing. It isn't rushing forward. It is pacing them, like a hunter controlling distance. The voice continues through the radio. "You have destroyed many of my vehicles today." Reyes studies the battlefield carefully. 2 enemy tanks ahead, one circling behind. Missile teams still hidden across the desert near the Shad al-Arab. And now this tank, speaking to them. Reyes answers quietly, "Identify yourself." A short pause, then the reply, "Captain Farhad Rahimi, Iranian Armored Division." Inside the Abrams, Turner shifts nervously. "They're talking to us now." Briggs keeps his eyes on the scope. "That tank isn't aiming yet." Reyes understands the tactic. Rahimi is buying time, letting his other tanks maneuver into position. The Iranian voice continues, "You fight well, Sergeant, but this battle is finished." Reyes watches the thermal display. The rear enemy tank is closing again. 200 meters. The trap tightening. Rahimi speaks again. "You cannot escape. Surrender your vehicle and your crew will live." Turner laughs nervously. "Yeah, that's not happening." Reyes doesn't respond. Instead, he studies Rahimi's tank through the optics. The Iranian vehicle sits half hidden in refinery smoke. Its turret slowly turning, not directly at them, slightly to the side. Reyes suddenly notices something. "Gunner, zoom on that tank." Briggs adjusts the magnification. The image sharpens. Reyes sees exposed piping along the refinery access road, massive fuel lines running beside the highway, and Rahimi's tank cannon aimed directly toward them. Not at the Abrams, at the pipelines. Reyes' stomach tightens. Rahimi speaks again, almost quietly now. "If I fire, the refinery burns." Turner freezes. "You're kidding." Briggs whispers, "He'd ignite the whole fuel network. Millions of gallons of oil. Gas storage towers. Pipeline pressure systems. One shell could start a firestorm." Reyes understands instantly. Rahimi doesn't need to destroy the Abrams. He only needs to destroy Basra. The Iranian captain's voice returns over the radio. "Leave this road, Sergeant. Retreat south." A pause, "or I burn the city." Inside the Abrams, no one speaks. Outside, the refinery towers loom through the smoke, and Reyes realizes the war has just turned into something much bigger than a tank battle. The refinery towers rise like black skeletons against the smoky sky outside Basra. Pipelines stretch across the desert like veins filled with fire. Inside the M1A2 Abrams, Sergeant Daniel Reyes feels the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Captain Farhad Rahimi's T-90 sits calmly near the fuel lines, its cannon aimed at the pipeline network, not at them. At the city, the radio crackles again. Rahimi's voice is steady. "You understand now, Sergeant." Reyes watches through the optics. Two more Iranian tanks moving slowly across the refinery road, another circling behind them near the sand berms. They're sealing every escape route. Private Cole Turner whispers from the driver's seat. "He's bluffing, right?" Corporal Mason Briggs doesn't answer immediately. He studies the thermal feed showing the pipeline. Pressure gauges mounted along the industrial structures. One well-placed shell would rupture the fuel network instantly, and the entire refinery complex would ignite. Briggs exhales slowly. He's not bluffing. Reyes already knows. Millions of barrels of crude oil are stored here. Gas towers, fuel depots, storage tanks taller than buildings. A single spark could create an inferno visible for miles along the Shed al-Arab. The radio clicks again. "Leave the refinery road," Rahimi says quietly. "You have 30 seconds. Turner glances upward. "Sergeant, what do we do?" Reyes watches the Iranian tank carefully. Something feels wrong. Rahimi has them surrounded. He could destroy the Abrams easily. Yet he is giving them time. Why? Briggs suddenly zooms the thermal display again. "Sergeant, look at this." Reyes leans closer. Behind Rahimi's tank, faint heat signatures move along the refinery structures. Dozens of them. Soldiers, Iranian infantry units creeping through the industrial maze. Briggs mutters under his breath. "He's not just blocking us." Reyes finished the thought. "He's preparing an assault." The refinery isn't just a target. It's the objective. Rahimi plans to seize the facility intact. Control the oil. Control the supply lines. And if the Americans resist, burn everything. The radio timer ticks down. 10 seconds, Rahimi announces calmly. Turner's breathing becomes louder inside the tank. Briggs reloads another Sebo round. Shell ready. Reyes stares at the pipelines again. If he fires first, Rahimi might shoot the fuel network in retaliation. But if they retreat, Iranian forces take the refinery. And Basra falls. The countdown continues. 5 seconds. Outside, the Iranian tank's cannon slowly adjusts its aim. Reyes grips the intercom. "Driver." Turner waits. Reyes inhales slowly. Then he gives the order. "Full speed forward." Turner blinks. Straight at him. Reyes' voice is cold and certain. "Yes." Because if Rahimi fires, the entire refinery explodes. And if he doesn't, they might still have one chance. Outside, the Abrams engine roars, and 40 tons of American steel charges directly toward the pipeline trigger. The turbine engine of the M1A2 Abrams roars like a jet as Private Cole Turner slams the throttle forward. 40 tons of armored steel surge down the refinery access road outside Basra. Dust and burning smoke swirl behind the tank. Inside the turret, Sergeant Daniel Reyes keeps his eyes locked on the Iranian T-90 waiting beside the pipelines. Captain Farhad Rahimi's cannon still points toward the fuel network. The distance closes rapidly. 400 meters. 300. The radio clicks again. Rahimi's voice returns. "You would risk the entire city." Reyes answers calmly. "You would risk it first." For a moment, there is only the thunder of engines and the distant crack of gunfire across the refinery district. Then Rahimi speaks again, quieter this time. "You misunderstand, Sergeant." Reyes watches carefully. The Iranian tank's turret begins to move, not toward the pipelines, toward them. 200 meters. Briggs steadies the crosshairs on Rahimi's tank. Target locked. Behind them, the other Iranian tanks begin accelerating, closing the trap from the rear near the roads leading to the Shed al-Arab. Turner shouts, "Sergeant, we've got armor behind us." Reyes doesn't look away from the sight. "Keep driving." The refinery towers grow larger now. Massive fuel storage tanks loom beside the road. One shell could ignite everything. Rahimi's voice returns over the radio. "You are brave, but bravery does not win wars." The Iranian cannon stops rotating. Now it points directly at the Abrams. Briggs mutters quietly. He changed targets. Reyes realizes something. Rahimi never intended to fire at the pipelines. The threat was a bluff, a gamble to stall them long enough for his infantry to secure the refinery. But now the bluff is over. Both tanks are within lethal range. 100 meters. Turner's voice rises. "Sergeant, we're too close." Inside the Abrams, Briggs loads the Sebo round. Ready to fire. Reyes studies the enemy tank through the optics. Through the open commander hatch, he briefly sees the silhouette of Captain Rahimi standing half out of his turret. Binoculars raised, two commanders watching each other across the battlefield. Two decisions, two crews, only one will drive away. "Fire," Reyes says quietly. At the exact same moment, Rahimi gives the same order inside his tank. Two cannons flash in the refinery smoke, and the desert shakes again with the sound of steel colliding with steel. The two cannons fire at the same moment. The blast from the M1A2 Abrams shakes the refinery road like an earthquake. Inside the turret, Sergeant Daniel Reyes feels the violent recoil slam through the steel hull. Across the narrow stretch of sand outside Basra, Captain Farhad Rahimi's T-90 fires back. For a fraction of a second, both shells rip through the smoky air, then impact. The Iranian shell strikes the Abrams first. The explosion crashes against the tank's frontal armor with terrifying force. Warning alarms erupt across the control panels as the hull vibrates violently. Private Cole Turner shouts over the noise. Direct hit. Metal groans, but the armor holds. Still operational. Corporal Mason Briggs confirms after glancing at the damage display. But Reyes is already watching the other shell. The Abrams sub-0 round tears straight toward Rahimi's tank. The penetrator strikes the T-90 just beneath the turret. For a brief heartbeat, nothing moves. Then the explosion bursts from the tank's interior. Flames erupt through the commander's hatch as ammunition detonates inside the hull. The turret jerks sideways and collapses against the refinery road. Rahimi's tank burns. Briggs exhales sharply. Enemy tank destroyed. But Reyes does not celebrate, because the battle is not over. Behind them, two remaining Iranian tanks roar forward through the smoke near the roads, leading to the Shat al-Arab. Missile teams emerge from refinery structures. Dozens of infantry. The Iranian assault force is still advancing. Turner glances up nervously. Sergeant, Rahimi's down, but they're still coming. Reyes stares at the burning wreck of the T-90. For a moment, the battlefield feels strangely quiet. Then something unexpected happens. The radio crackles again. A different Iranian voice speaks. Captain Rahimi is dead. Inside the Abrams, the crew freezes. The voice continues, tense but controlled. All units, withdraw to secondary positions. Reyes watches through the optics. Across the refinery road, Iranian infantry suddenly begin pulling back. Missile teams retreat behind the industrial structures. Even the remaining enemy tanks slow down. Confusion spreads across the battlefield. Briggs whispers, "There." Retreating? Turner laughs in disbelief. No way. But through the smoke, it becomes clear. Without Rahimi's command, the Iranian assault has stalled. Their armored spearhead destroyed. Reyes lowers the binoculars slowly. For the first time since dawn, the refinery towers stand silent. But then the radio erupts again. Atlas 1, this is command. Reyes grabs the mic. Go ahead. The voice sounds urgent. New Iranian armored divisions, crossing the border north of Basra. Multiple columns advancing toward the city. Reyes stares toward the dark horizon. More smoke rising. More engines approaching. The battle they just survived was only the first wave. And the war is just beginning. The desert grows strangely quiet after the gunfire fades. Black smoke drifts across the refinery fields outside Basra, carried slowly by the wind from the burning wreck of Captain Farhad Rahimi's T-90 inside the battered M1A2 Abrams. Sergeant Daniel Reyes finally allows himself to breathe. For nearly an hour, the crew has lived inside thunder. Now the silence feels almost unnatural. Private Cole Turner wipes sweat from his eyes and glances at the damage indicators. Engine still running, he says quietly. I don't know how, but she's alive. Corporal Mason Briggs removes his headset for a moment, rubbing the back of his neck. The smell of burned insulation lingers inside the turret. Reyes looks once more through the commander's optics. The refinery towers stand untouched. Pipelines stretch across the desert like dark scars in the sand. If Rahimi's shell had struck them earlier, the entire industrial complex could have become a firestorm visible across the Shat al-Arab. But the tanks that threatened it are now gone, destroyed, or retreating. Briggs finally breaks the silence. Sergeant, you think Rahimi really would have burned the whole place? Reyes considers the burning wreck across the road. The Iranian commander had gambled everything on intimidation, a bluff designed to freeze them long enough for the refinery to fall intact. But in war, bluffs can kill just as easily as bullets. Maybe, Reyes answers quietly. Turner glances toward the horizon. Dark shapes move faintly in the distant dust, not retreating, approaching, columns of armor, just as command warned. Reyes grabs the radio again. Atlas 1 to command. Refinery sector secured, but we have no contacts north of our position. Static crackles. Then the reply arrives. Copy that, Atlas 1. Reinforcements are moving from Kuwait City, but they're hours away. Hours. Reyes studies the distant movement through the optics. More armored vehicles emerging along the desert highway. Dozens of them. This was never just one tank battle. It was the opening move of something much larger. Turner speaks softly. So what now, Sergeant? Reyes looks around the interior of the Abrams. 3 exhausted soldiers, a damaged tank, and a battlefield that is only beginning to ignite. He adjusts the radio headset and gives the only answer possible. We reload. Briggs slides another sabot round into the breach with a heavy metallic click. Outside, the desert wind carries the distant rumble of approaching armor. The first battle of the war has ended. But the war for the Middle East has only begun. And somewhere beyond the smoke, new tank columns are already advancing toward Basra.